Hey, Al McCoy here, and you are listening to the Solar Panel, the Phoenix Suns Show.
We do appreciate you watching the 116th episode.
Actually, I think it's 117.
Whatever, 117th, 116th, regardless, episode.
Too many.
The Suns Solar Panel podcast. My name is Tim Tompkins. We have Dave King.
Yo!
Mr. Greg Esposito.
Ahoy, hoy.
So Devin Booker is now the youngest player in NBA history to hit 500 threes. Not only that, this is one of the few accolades he was able to win, or to receive, I should say, while also winning games. So I think he actually kind of enjoyed it.
Why'd you have to take the shot?
Yeah,
I mean, like,
he does.
Not a shot.
Everything is a shot.
I
mean, worst.
I am happy for Devin. It doesn't surprise me that he's been able to accomplish some of these things. And when you think about some of the other great three-point shooters and high-volume three-point shooters in league history, a lot of those guys were four-year college guys. You think about Steph Curry, he went 4 years at Davidson, if I'm right, or at least 3 at Davidson before he came in. So he came in much older than Devin. So Devin coming in 1 year and then really taking on a high volume load for the Suns, put him in a position to accomplish this. But obviously he's a great shooter. We all know he can score immensely easily, and I'm excited for him. It's good to see him wind up on these kind of lists and at the top of these kind of lists, because it just proves his skill set.
Look, Tim is totally right that that Devin Booker has not accomplished any of his individual accolades while winning games. The Suns have the worst record in the league over the last 4 years, and that's absolutely true. And even recently, in the last couple of months, it was pretty obvious that Devin Booker wasn't doing all the right things to get the Suns wins. He had 75% usage rate toward the end of games. He was forcing threes, which was bringing the 3-point percentage down. But somehow over the last couple of weeks, he's really dialed it back in. He's really decided that he's going to contribute even more so in the right ways. He's had a bad year, basically, in my opinion, as far as leading toward wins. Whereas last year, the argument that he wasn't playing well enough to lead teams to wins was not true, because he was doing the right things. And I think he's finally gotten back to it this year. It's been a tough year for him mentally. He was hoping the Suns would win more games too, and they just haven't. And he got into a real funk. But right now, this team is playing really well. And I'm happy that he gets to actually stand in front of a camera for once and say, I don't care that I'm the youngest to 500 three-pointers. I'd rather just talk about the win we just notched against one of the league's better teams. So I'm happy for him. And it's nice because just 2 weeks ago he said he was at his lowest point with the Suns, and now he's saying he's at his highest point.
It's amazing what a couple of wins can do. And good wins.
It really is. It really is. It's like a complete relief. And the fact, the best thing about their recent wins was that they were actually able to sustain it against a bad team. Usually they play down to the bad teams and they play up to the good teams to the point where they're just losing all the games by 10 to 15 points. And so that was nice that against the Knicks they were able to continue that.
I can't remember what it was that Devin Booker had, what accolade he had received. It was earlier in the season, but he was basically like, I don't even care because we aren't winning the games. At this point, it doesn't matter. It was also pretty cool.
He was the first to 5,000 points, and that's when he got mad.
What it was?
Yeah, he was the youngest to 5,000 points, and he got mad about that because, he got mad about talking about it because the Suns were in the middle of a losing streak. Which is good. You should not be happy about individual accolades if you are losing game after game after game after game. It should be grating on you. It should not be something you're looking forward to. And then really, what rubbed people really wrong about LeBron James a few weeks ago is after everything he's done, and the Lakers were in their own losing streak, he was complimenting himself on Instagram about his. I think he brought himself up to third in total points scored in his career, something like that. There was some accolade he hit, and he was bragging about that on Instagram after the Lakers had a loss. So fans don't like to see that, and players should not be focusing on that.
No, and to your point, yeah, it's been Devin's attitude has dramatically changed after winning 3 games in a row because if I'm correct, I'm not sure that he's actually been on the court for a winning streak of more than 3 before, has he?
Correct. Yeah, no, it's topped out at 3. He was not on the court for all 4 wins in December, so he can't take credit for that. But that was their longest win streak since 2014, when they won 4 in a row in December.
So
I don't think they're going
to than that win streak. Is this more sustainable than that win streak they had in December? Because I feel like it is personally.
Yeah.
That's the big question for me. I've enjoyed this win streak. I've loved what I've seen, but we did see. I mean, this is a similar pattern to what we saw in December. They had lost 10 in a row. They won 4 in a row, and then the wheels, or excuse me, 5 out of 7 with a chance to
4 in a row and 5 out of 7. You're right.
Yeah. So and then the wheels fell off again, and then the 17-game losing streak happened, and they've won 4 out of 5 with a chance to win 4 in a row, and so to me, I'm excited to see this. I'm glad, and I really hope it's sustainable. But then again, the little voice in the back of my head goes, well, we did see him win 4 in a row in December. So
the thing about the December stretch, and we all did feel pretty good about the December stretch, but that was with Devin in and out of the lineup, and they were beating about the same teams. They had wins against the Bucks in there. They had a win against the Bucks. They had a win against the Knicks in there, which is 2 of their 3 wins they've just had this current week. So it is possible that this is not repeatable. But I do think that the way they're playing is more repeatable now. It just feels like, it looks like that they know more what they've been able to withstand some runs by the other teams, which has been good to see. And the Suns have more playable veterans now than they did then. Kelly Oubre was a part of some of that winning streak back in December. But it's nice to see some more consistent play from another guard besides Devin Booker. And while Tyler Johnson does not set the world on fire, he actually is playing at least predictable, consistent basketball. I mean, the guy's got a 40-9 assist to turnover ratio in the last several games, which is really good. And I think that just shows that, you can't have these live ball turnovers in the backcourt where the other team is getting fast break after fast break. And so Tyler Johnson has been good at least not turning that ball over like that. So I think this is more sustainable. They also have a more consistently easier schedule, although over the weekend it's Portland and Golden State. But overall, for the last 15, 16 games of the year, there are some wins that can be had there.
Yeah, and I think I agree with that. And I think the point guard play and what Tyler Johnson, I retract my Tyler Johnson comments from a few episodes ago. He has played
Johnson.
What
did you call him? O for Johnson?
Yeah, and I
called him O for Johnson.
You know what? I'm going to take credit for Tyler Johnson's turnaround and the Suns' turnaround, because I called Tyler O for, and then I made a stupid bet with Dave, and since then both the team and Tyler Johnson have looked fantastic. So I'm just a reverse jinx right now, and I'm happy to do that for the fan base and this team. So you're all welcome. But no, Tyler Johnson has brought an energy, has played well, and to Dave's point, has not turned over the ball. And what this shows us is if you have a serviceable NBA level point guard, not great, but serviceable, a guy that's going to protect the ball and play smart at that position, it makes a world of impact on what Igor and his system can do with this team. And that is the most encouraging thing to me, because it means if you seriously address that going into the offseason, it should help you tenfold going into next year. And that is very, very encouraging to me, and why I think that this may be more sustainable than December is because unless Tyler Johnson got hurt, knock on wood, I don't foresee them returning to really bad point guard play. So that should help them throughout, and that is exciting. And then we've seen DeAndre Ayton evolve a little bit as well over this win streak, which helps this team as well. And that's another reason why I think this is more sustainable. Now, I'm not going to panic if they lose, and this probably will be released after these two games, but if they lose to Portland and Golden State, there's no reason to panic. Those are two good teams, and you're on the road in two tough arenas to play at. Those are acceptable losses for a young team. As long as they're competitive, as long as they're not 30, 40-point losses, you don't look at it and go, oh, well, this is a major setback. Those are the kind of losses you can accept.
It's overall going to be a tough week. They got the Blazers and the Warriors on the weekend, which, like I said, like you just said, Greg, folks will probably be have seen already before they listen to this pod. But then they have the Jazz at home on Wednesday, and then the Rockets on the road, and the Rockets are surging right now on Friday in Houston. So their next possible winnable game will be the one they just lost to the Pelicans, and this time it'd be in New Orleans. But then after that, you got the Bulls, you got the Pistons, who are always beatable. You have the Kings, who are coming a little bit back down to earth, but God, I love watching them play. Another Jazz game. But then you got the Wizards, Grizzlies, Cavs, Jazz, and Pelicans again. I mean, there are some wins that can be had. Like I said, I called my shot a couple weeks ago. I said they were going to approach 20 wins. They actually might get there.
What the schedule maker's a little bizarre. Suns played most of their Lakers games, if I remember, up front in the schedule, and then they played the Jazz 3 times in the final few weeks of the season. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's been kind of weird, that's for sure. And they played the Clippers a lot early too.
Yeah. When the Clippers are really good, the Clippers are still a pretty good team. But I do want to go ahead and thank a couple listeners for supporting the podcast, the YouTube shows. So if you're watching us on YouTube right now, or if you're listening on your podcast and you look in the show notes below, there's a button that says support the show. You can open that up. It's really easy if you want to support the show. You feel like we bring some value to your life. If you want to do a $1, a $5, or a $10 monthly in-kind donation, if you will, to the show, we do really appreciate it. If you do the $10 option, I will go ahead and send you some Sun swag. So this week I want to thank Joe Shook as well as Salvador Jimenez. Joe already got his swag, but Salvador, if you want to go ahead and hit us up on Twitter or on Facebook, let me know your address, because I don't know what it is. I don't know where to send it. I'll go ahead and get that out to you this week. And again, thank you so much for supporting the Sun Solar Panel podcast.
Yeah, thank you guys for supporting. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. And Tim, you're not omniscient. You just don't know these people's addresses automatically. I'm disappointed in you.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. When someone does the monthly donation to the podcast, it doesn't give us their address. I'm not even sure.
I hope it wouldn't. That would be weird, wouldn't it? You get their birth date, their address, their gender, their next of kin, all that. That would be interesting.
So far, I think everyone's enjoyed the stuff they've gotten. We've got hit up on Twitter by a couple of different people that received it. They seemed happy.
The nice thing is it does give us their credit card number, though, so that donation goes really far when we can buy other things.
Yeah.
Thank you for the groceries last week, guys.
You've named our company Amazon, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
so
they have no clue.
There's extra debits on their account.
Exactly.
Oh, I must have placed another order.
So I was taking a look at some net ratings of some different lineups since the February 6th acquisition of Tyler Johnson. And they're pretty good. So talking about 5-man lineups, Tyler Johnson, Devin Booker, Kelly Oubre, Josh Jackson, and DeAndre Ayton. That is a net rating of a plus 14.7. When you do switch out Jackson for Bridges, that drops all the way down to a 1.8, a positive net rating, but so you're losing about 13 points right there. per 100 possessions. And when you switch Jackson out for Dragan Bender, it falls to a negative 8.6, although I think that is a little bit misleading because Dragan Bender has been very useful in certain situations when the Suns are just getting beaten up by size, if you will.
Everything is predicated on whether Bender makes his first shot. And God, I'm so happy when I see his shot drop in the first quarter, because then I know he's going to, even if he only plays 12 minutes, it'll have been a pretty good 12 minutes.
Yeah. But overall, since acquiring Tyler Johnson, since putting Kelly Oubre into the starting lineup, the Suns have been pretty good. I think it is interesting that even with Josh Jackson in there, the Suns are a positive 14.7. And also the fact that the Suns are better with Josh Jackson in that lineup than Mikal Bridges. It's surprising because Mikal Bridges started out the season so strong. Obviously, he's in a different role now. He's still a rookie. He's still figuring out how to play and make an impact off the bench. But I do think that was interesting.
Let me tell you what, man. Mikal Bridges is the one I have the least worry about for his career. That dude is going to be so good for so long, and he's always going to be on the underappreciated list. He is continually, especially if the Suns start winning games, national media will pick up on it too. Everyone will be like the hidden Mikal Bridges fan, except there'll be millions of them, because he isn't going to do everything on the scoreboard. But man, 3 steals here, 2 blocks there, leading the league in pass deflection type plays. The guy is just so naturally good, and it's not just natural. He works his butt off too, so he maximizes everything he's got. I love watching that kid play.
How much of that, and forgive me, this is my analytics ignorance again, but how much of that net rating is just impacted by the fact that Josh Jackson tries to score more than Mikal Bridges? Like, is that a swing because Josh Jackson tries to score more?
All shots.
But he also scores more points.
Right, but that's not going to make your net rating better. If you're missing all your shots, it's if anything, it could bring down the net rating of the 5-man lineup.
Josh Jackson, he's a tough one. He goes through good stretches where his shot puts go in. He tries really hard. He plays fairly good defense. He's always moving, always engaged. If you're looking for energy, he's going to bring it. But he just always reminds me of Archie Goodwin, for better or for worse.
Josh Jackson and Kelly Oubre together defensively, they're fantastic. The way that they switch they play defense off of each other incredibly well.
And is that why you think there's this difference in net rating between when Jackson's on the floor and Bridges?
I don't know. It's in a fairly large sample size too. I do have some 3-man lineup net ratings that I think are pretty interesting. And this is based off of a really large sample size. Again, it's since February 6th. Out of 178 minutes, Kelly Oubre, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton are a positive net rating of 6.7. But when you switch that out for Josh Jackson over Kelly Oubre, so Josh Jackson, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton, that's a negative 2.7 net rating. So as I saw on Twitter, which I could give the guy the credit for, I don't remember who tweeted it, but maybe it was even Dave that said it. I don't remember. But Kelly Oubre is a player that Josh Jackson wanted to be.
Yeah, that's good. I've thought for a couple of months. I didn't tweet that, so let's give credit to whoever that was if we could. But I have thought that Kelly Oubre is the guy we want Josh Jackson to be in a couple of years, and Kelly Oubre is already there. So the only difference is the money. Oubre, we'll see what kind of money he can get this summer. Of course, he's going to want a lot of money, but restricted free agents don't get offers. And so it could be that the Suns are in a pretty good position if they don't jump the gun and outbid themselves, that they could get him for the 13 to 15 million range. That would be nice. Jackson himself is going to make $9+ million in the next year or two anyway, just because of where he was drafted, even on his rookie contract. So you're not paying tons more for a fully actualized. The best you can get out of Josh Jackson is going to be Kelly Oubre that we already have.
I think you're totally right. Whoever you are on Twitter, Oubre is who Josh Jackson wanted to be, including looks, right? I think he thinks he's probably jealous there as well. But I I think it's a huge benefit to have Kelly Oubre there for Josh Jackson's development too, because it gives Josh Jackson a guy to look at and go, this is the way, this is the blueprint for me. This is the way I should play moving forward. And I think that's why he looks so good on defense when Kelly Oubre is out there, because it gives him somebody to emulate and to work off of and feed off of. And I don't think there's anything but positive with that, and that's why I hope they find a way to keep Kelly Oubre in the offseason, because I think it has a positive impact on Jackson in the long term as well.
Well, let's talk about that. So Kelly Oubre had made some comments that were very welcome by Suns fans over the week, saying he doesn't want to go anywhere else. He wants to essentially build a dynasty and be part of a dynasty in Phoenix. And I think that was music to a lot of Suns fans' ears, because Suns fans really like Kelly Oubre. And I just kind of wondered, does this put even additional pressure on the front office to keep Kelly Oubre this offseason?
Well, no, I don't think it does, because most front offices aren't going to make their personnel decisions based on the fans necessarily, because they have a job to do. And if it doesn't make sense to them from a personnel fit or whatever puzzle they're trying to put together, it's not going to matter what he's saying or what the fans are saying. Where this is important, though, is it goes a long way to proving or reinstilling that Phoenix is a place that people want to be. When was the last time we were talking about a guy of high talent level saying he wants to be here legitimately? Now, Devin Booker's a little different. They backed the Brinks truck up, and it's tough to say, I'll pass on that $158 million, thank you. But Kelly Oubre has no benefit to say that. It actually hurts his value probably, because he's telling other teams, this is really where I want to be. So it's music to my ears to hear that. It's great to see a guy that epitomizes the effort level that you want to see and the defensive mindset that you want to see, want to be here long term. Now, it's going to come down to numbers, but I'm okay if you slightly overpay for Kelly Oubre, as long as you have a plan to move one of the other small forwards to help you fill the gaps that you have in your roster. And that's the key for me.
What I like about Oubre is not only that he's just 23 years old still, so he's in the beginning of his NBA prime, but also that he constantly moves. He is a tsunami out there. I don't love his nickname, Tsunami Poppy.
Aren't you guys selling those shirts, Bright Side of the
Sun?
Sun?
Yeah, we are. I don't love the nickname, but he does. That's what he calls himself on Twitter.
Dave will do anything to make a buck. He doesn't care whether he likes it or not.
How much you make on selling a T-shirt?
It's very little, but it's more than this podcast. So, I'll take that.
We made more than $1.
When you factor in what I spend a month on certain aspects for the show, I'm not sure that we've made any money.
Okay, so let's you guys tell me if you think that this is going to be within $5 million less or more than the number that Kelly Oubre is going to get from the Suns this offseason. 4 years, $60 million.
That's 15 a year. I think that's about right.
Yes, I think that's probably within 2 or 3 million, either side of that, of what he gets, depending on the competition in the marketplace.
Let's say the Suns gave him 4 years, $85 million.
That's when you get in a range where you go, that's a lot of money. I'm not
21,
sure.
22, that's way too much.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. The Suns are not going to be, almost certainly the Suns are not going to be fighting off another team's offer sheet. They're not, that's just not the way it works anymore with the CBA. There's a lot of unrestricted free agents out there that you don't have to wait 2 days to get the other team not to match. Kelly Oubre is not quite good enough for another team to want to pay $22 million a year to start. So I don't think the first year and then it goes up or whatever from there. I don't think the Suns are going to be having to match an offer sheet to Kelly Oubre. So the question is going to be, in their game of chicken, who's going to blink first with Kelly Oubre? 4 years ago now, they blinked right off the bat to re-sign Brandon Knight to the maximum deal they could at the time. Ooh. The year before that, what's that?
That worked out.
Yeah, right. And because the year before that, they waited all summer trying to get Eric Bledsoe to drop his price. He never did. They signed him literally hours before training camp started, and that was a long summer. And they made some really bad personnel moves that summer to hedge against losing Eric Bledsoe. So clearly, Ryan McDonough is not a restricted free agency maven. We'll see how James Jones is if he's still the GM. I'm assuming he'll probably be the GM. And we'll see how James Jones does. Does he blink first and just give Kelly Oubre the money Kelly Oubre is asking for on day one? Or does he wait a week? Does he wait 3 days? Does he wait 3 months?
I don't, to Dave's point, I don't think that they're going to wind up having to match some ridiculously large offer like you just suggested.
Or any offer. I don't even think an average offer, because I think the Suns do have a good enough relationship with Oubre and his agent that there'll be some gentleman's agreement. Hey, do you want me to sign this offer sheet for 15, or can you just give it to me?
Yeah. Well, the only way I could see that they could hit a speed bump, a road bump, is if some team structures a deal similar to the way the Tyler Johnson deal was structured.
They can't. You can't.
Is that no longer
that's
allowed?
No. It's just because Kelly Oubre was actually a first-round pick. The only reason Tyler Johnson was able to get that poison pill contract is because he was So DeAnthony Melton a year from now, I'm pretty sure can be signed to that poison pill if somebody wanted to do it, because he was a second-round pick and he'll be a free agent, and the early bird rights and all that stuff are in play for DeAnthony Melton. But no, it's going to be a straight offer with no more than, I think, 4.5% increases at the most.
I need to go back to my CBA FAQ and do a little refresher on that. It's been a while.
Still gold.
It is. It's the best thing if you're trying to understand what the hell the teams can do within the restriction. So then if there's no poison pill in play here, then I don't foresee any issue with this. If they want to keep him, they're going to keep him, and they're going to keep him at a fairly, I mean, I wish I could say 15 million is reasonable in any other kind of position in the world, but reasonable NBA contract.
Let's put this into a little context. Would you rather pay Kelly Oubre $15 million a year? What's a better deal? Because the Suns will probably be paying both. What's a better deal? $15 million a year for Kelly Oubre, or $11 million a year for TJ Warren?
15 for Oubre because he gives you something on both ends of the court.
Oubre is a tsunami on defense.
Oubre, it depends. So with Oubre playing the way he's played, I think that he has made TJ Warren expendable with this lineup on this roster, but I don't think that one necessarily has a ton better value than the other one does. But it gives the Suns an absolute ability to use TJ Warren to fill a gap that they have now.
Come on, let's look at this. Oubre gives you defense. Warren's not. Oubre can have big nights offensively. Warren probably gets the slight edge,
potential for bigger nights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then the difference maker here is Kelly Oubre Jr. brings the ladies to the arena. TJ Warren does not. So there you go. It leans in Oubre's favor.
You want to talk about conspiracy theories with TJ Warren right now? Because on the Suns internet sphere, Suns fans internet sphere, it's starting to become a TJ Warren is only out because the Suns are going to trade him.
That's definitely not it. Now, there's probably more than an ankle sprain at this point, much like his head injury back a few years ago was more than anything they ever let on. And
I feel like something else is going on, and it is not a devastating health issue that should be reported so we can feel sympathy for TJ Warren. There's something about TJ Warren that is unsympathetic, that just a lingering ankle injury is the play that they all agreed to roll the dice with.
Well, I mean, I was there. Well, I think we were all there when he rolled his ankle, but it's been a while.
He
sure
rolled it, but seriously, if this was a high ankle sprain, okay, so Lonzo Ball is also probably out for the season, right, with an ankle sprain. So it is quite possible that this is such a heavy ankle sprain, it's not going away, and you lose all the spring in your. I had an ankle sprain. I'm old, I know that, but I had an ankle sprain for like 6 months. And I've never had that before. I've rolled my ankle tons of times in my life, but it stayed for 6 months this past year. And I can see where I had no lift, I had no spring. I was constantly wearing the brace when I was exercising. So I can see how these high, deep bone bruise ankle sprains can last. But you would think that there would be some other news about this than TJ Warren is out, ankle soreness.
Yeah, it could be potentially. Originally was an ankle sprain. Something else embarrassing to the player happened that they don't want to report. I've seen that before in my time. No, I'm not going to give you any details on any of that, but
hit him
things
up in
that could come up.
DMs.
Yeah, slide into my DMs. We can talk. I also love that. I love that Dave just went into my favorite segment on Suns podcast and NBA podcasts in general. Unathletic white guy tries to compare his life to NBA player.
That's exactly it, because that's what I always do. I always compare myself to them.
That's always my favorite on any of these podcasts. But yeah, so there's, I mean, it could.
But okay, so let me do the Lonzo Ball part instead. Lonzo Ball is going to be out. They're saying probably for the rest of the season, and with an ankle sprain. So these things do happen to NBA athletes as well.
Yeah, but I mean, in the Lakers' case right now, they're also going to be resting LeBron James. They're trying to improve their draft position as much as they can, right? Because they know the playoffs are.
No, right. So they're going to wait until TJ is 100%. Same exact logic.
See, I don't know that it is like I don't buy into this conspiracy theory though, which Tim's initial comment was that they think they're going to trade him or whatever, and that if. No way, because the GM doesn't even know if he's going to be here past April 15th. Like, why?
No, I just meant that they're not playing for the playoffs. They're not playing for anything. For the same reason the Lakers are going to let Lonzo Ball completely heal before they force him on a court again has always been the reason the Suns are doing it with TJ.
But you would kind of wonder, or you'd kind of think that TJ would be more motivated to get back on the floor, because he's losing ground to all these other small forwards with this team, and that it's gonna have an impact. So
that's exactly my concern, Greg. Why isn't TJ Warren fighting harder to get back? Well, that's my question.
The Suns might want to see what a TJ Warren and a Kelly Oubre, what a rotation looks like. How does that fit? Can they bring off TJ off the bench? Is that possible? Does that help? What does that do for the team? Like, I'm sure the Suns want to see it. I want to see it. I'm curious. Why wouldn't they?
Right. I totally agree. I think he should be fighting to get back right now. And he just doesn't appear to be to us. And that's part of that is just his personality. He's not a talker. He's not a sharer like that. That's for sure.
Well, bright side of the sun is there for some Suns practices. I'm not.
He's not around though. They only bring out the players they want to bring out for you to see, to talk to. You don't get to just go hunt down players.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you don't just get to walk into practice. It's usually 10 minutes at the end, and it's usually layups and stuff.
Only the light shoot around.
But what are you seeing TJ Warren out there doing? Any sort of basketball drills in the
He's
practice?
shooting. The only thing we've seen from what I've heard, because I don't make the practices, or a lot of the early pre-games, he is doing shooting around the perimeter, and he's not jumping.
But that's TJ Warren in general. So
nobody does in those. Right, exactly. Nobody does in those warm-ups that are visible to the public. I don't think I've seen a guy clear 3 inches on any move, because what they're doing is they're practicing the motions, and they're not doing it at full speed.
The only time I ever saw anybody actually jump is they had a dunk contest a handful of years back when Gerald Green was on the team, a post-practice dunk contest. That was the only time I saw anything athletic in those 10 minutes.
Oh, that's when they threw it off the side wall and stuff like that?
Yeah, it was right. It was after LeBron did it while practicing at the facility, and they decided, hey, we're gonna showcase what we can do here too. But that's
I'd like to see a Josh Jackson post-practice dunk contest.
He could put on a bit of a show, I'm sure.
I know he could. I'm just curious about his conversion rate.
I mean, I do like talking about conversion rates. So Dave had mentioned earlier on in the episode a bit about Devin Booker in crunch time and clutch situations and the usage rate, and something we touched on earlier in the season. He had this, I don't even remember what it is, but some astronomical high.
75%.
It's like 75%, way higher than it should be for basically any player apart from LeBron James, Giannis, James Harden, that kind of thing. And
even those guys know better, and
right.
They don't get to 75.
So I was taking a look at it since, again, these are all stats since February 6th, since acquiring Tyler Johnson, Kelly Oubre. Devin Booker's clutch time usage is 38%, still incredibly high. Kelly Oubre's 19%, and Tyler Johnson is 14%. So while it is high, it is nowhere near the 75% that it was.
Okay, two things. What's DeAndre Ayton's percentage at? It's got to be next.
I think it was at 0 for a long time, but it might be a little higher now.
Is at 12.5.
Okay, so
look, man,
on the ball.
Some of my favorite plays that I've seen from DeAndre Ayton have come in the last week in crunch time, where he has Devin Booker and he have combined on a couple of pick and rolls that have just been wow.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to Ayton himself getting more comfortable in crunch time and knowing how to convert against another player who's defending him. He's always been fine on catching and finishing without anyone touching him. But this past week, he suddenly decided it's okay to go through another player to the rim. And I've really loved watching that.
In games that are within 5 points, within 5 minutes of the game, how many minutes do you think Josh Jackson averages in those final 5 minutes of close games?
1.
That's a good question, because he used to be in those a lot. Probably lately less, right? Because it's Bridges and Oubre.
0.5.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. So he was getting all the crunch time minutes earlier in the year because he was the guy Igor would say, oh, he's gonna disrupt the other team's offense because of his activity. But now you've got Oubre in there with Bridges, and that can cause a disruption. Where I am a little disappointed is, and I know Tyler Johnson, Igor's going to stick with Tyler Johnson the same way he stuck with Isaiah Kanan earlier in the year, and he has every right to, because you want a veteran in there who's not going to turn the ball over. I just mentioned earlier in the pod that Tyler Johnson's assist to turnover ratio is 40-9, and his steals are at 14. So he's almost a 1.5 steals to turnovers ratio, let alone 4-1 on assists. So I see why you put Tyler Johnson in there at the end. But to finish my thought, I am a little disappointed that DeAnthony Melton doesn't have any place to go in this lineup, because he is so good at disrupting the other team as well. However, when you've got Tyler Johnson, Devin Booker, Kelly Oubre, Mikal Bridges, and DeAndre Ayton, there really is no room for anybody else, and I think that's a heck of a closing lineup for this team. Obviously, there are better closing lineups for other teams, but go ahead,
is it surprising though that they've had more success since they've shifted to this lineup, using Josh Jackson less, having a Tyler Johnson at point? It explains the drop in late game usage for Devin Booker, because he's not having to play point guard, and he defaulted to hero ball in that. And with Josh Jackson off the floor, it's less turnovers in those final minutes. Well, he may be disruptive on the defensive end. He was as disruptive on the offensive end in the negative side, because he had poor decisions. So it doesn't surprise me that you've seen this. And I agree, it'd be nice to see DeAnthony Melton get some chances in that, because he is so disruptive. But right now, it makes sense why we've seen an uptick in performance and why we've seen efficiency with this lineup. To me, I don't think there's anything where I go, no, you really need to change this guy out, because it just makes sense.
Let me say one more favorite Devin Booker moment for the week, and this is just a little thing, and I probably took too much out of it, but I enjoyed it. On Wednesday against the Knicks, Booker was at 39 points and 6 threes with about 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and the Suns were up 15 or 17 points. So he's never exceeded 6 threes in a game, and he's never exceeded 40 points at home. So he had great chances in the last 5 minutes where it was just playing out the string. And Devin Booker could have taken over then. It wouldn't have been the crunch time minutes we're talking about, but he could have taken over to force the issue to get himself his 7th three and just taken and launched. And he did not. He actually lived up to what he says now after games. It's not about personal accolades. It's about winning games. And he enjoyed the Suns actually having the advantage in a blowout win and just playing it out. And he was passing. He was on the court. He just passed the ball off more often than he took shots. He did get his one more shot made, so he got up to 41 points. But that was just because the Knicks were going at him with hard defense so that he wouldn't be able to score. And he's just like, screw it, let me just show you how I can. But then he was done, and he didn't take another three in the last 4 minutes. And I thought that was mature of him, and it does back up his words after games. If he was fighting for that 7th three by taking 5 more threes, then, you know, his words would be more hollow, that he's not after individual accolades.
So shout out to Real GM every day after games puts out a tweet talking about the top box scores of players from the night.
Yeah.
And shout out to them for not including Devin Booker in that, even though Devin Booker scored 41, I think the next highest player had like 26 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds on a win on really effective shooting, you know, but just totally ignoring the fact that Devin Booker did that at home.
Well, but he did it. I'm sorry if I missed out what you were saying, Tim, but Devin Booker not only did the 41, but it was on 13 of 19 shooting, and that's what you're saying. It was 8 assists and 7 rebounds.
Right. It wasn't like it was 41 points on 20% shooting. I mean, he was effective, he was efficient, and they yet real GMs still didn't include him in that.
Like actual real GMs, they ignore the Suns. So, although you're totally right though, but how impressive, we take a step back to what we were talking about Devin Booker earlier. He's the youngest to get to 500 threes ever. And yet he's never hit more than 6 in a game. That makes that more impressive to me that he's gotten to that 500 mark.
He's gotten to 6 like 12 times, 11 or 12 times.
It's not like Steph where he's going to have, you know, a 10 or 11 night, you know, with threes on a semi-regular basis. Like he's done it while hitting 6 at max in a game.
He was at 5 with 4 minutes left in the third quarter before his before his rest. And then the Suns kept the lead, and he didn't have to come back in until around 8 minutes. And then he took one more three to get to 6, and then he took another three to get to that he missed to put him at 10 attempts, 6 out of 10. And then he didn't take another three after that. So, it's crazy. I've noticed several times that he's gotten to 5 threes in the third quarter and still doesn't exceed 6 by the end of the game. It's just, I don't know what it is.
2 things I want to bring up here, and it does kind of include what we're talking about with Devin, but with Igor, you look at it, and I think we're starting to see that he was labeled as a player development coach, a guy that was going to come in and help these young guys, and I think we're starting to see the fruits of that labor, and that's something that, as impatient as we are in general as a society, as impatient as we are as Suns fans after everything we've been through, I think we underestimated that it takes some time for that to happen. I think we're starting to see that growth with some of these young guys. Even as frustrating as Josh Jackson is, I think we've started to see him understand his limitation, understand his role. We've seen that, and then I find it interesting, and I briefly touched on this last week, but reports come out the day of that Miami game that if the Suns lose that game, Igor's going to get fired, right? Since then, they've won 4 of 5. To me, that says that this team genuinely likes and believes in Igor because they, instead of folding, which you easily could do at that point, they've decided to play the best basketball they have all season since that report. I think that both of those factors are highly encouraging for what the future of Igor Kokoshkov can be here in Phoenix if given the opportunity.
Yeah, we didn't see the players like go to the media and say anything about, oh, we got to keep Igor. Igor is great. But I think that's just because they're above that. I think I don't know how much of that rumor got to the players before that Miami game. where I really, some of it obviously, but probably not as much as the media made of it. I think the the turnaround that I saw in that Miami game and that the players were talking about was Devin Booker suddenly starting to go play the right way, pass the ball, move the ball to his teammates on the bench, and that's what the guys were talking about after the game. They're like, Devin was really, really vocal, breaking the 17-game losing streak game. And the thing that the players chose to talk about was Devin Booker becoming more of a leader. And since then, the whole team has been passing the ball a lot more, including Devin Booker and basically not trusting his teammates. He's been trusting his teammates, and I think that's made a huge difference in these guys.
Speaking of Igor Kokoshkov, so we've talked at length about some of his successes and shortcomings as a coach in his rookie season. And over the last couple of games, over the last week, he did something really interesting that I haven't seen a lot of other teams do. And this was when they were playing against LeBron James. Is Igor, to his credit that game, because I didn't think it was working some of the time, put the center on LeBron James the entire game, regardless of whether or not that was DeAndre Ayton or if it was Rashawn Holmes in there. And it ended up working. There was a time in which I think JaVale McGee was 10 of 10. Igor made a change. He brought Bender, and that was able to quell some of the size issues that were plaguing the Suns down the stretch in that game. And that was really, from a coaching standpoint, he had a game plan. He stuck to it. He didn't let the other coach out-coach him. He made some adjustments, and he won the game.
Well, I think the brilliance in that move was it kept DeAndre Ayton locked in on both ends of the floor all game. Because LeBron got his. I mean, it wasn't like they shut him down and he scored 2 points in that loss, but it kept DeAndre Ayton fully engaged on both ends of the floor, and it was one of the better games we've seen. And that's a smart move by a coach to figure out how you can get one of your key players to provide the most all game for you.
Look, if it was a 7-game series, DeAndre Ayton is not going to have that much of a positive effect defending LeBron for 7 games. He's not a defensive player of the year type. He's not a Kawhi Leonard. But what it did was it basically took away the bully ball a little bit that LeBron James likes to play on driving on guys and made LeBron a shooter. And so obviously you can't defend Steph Curry the same way because Steph will just make 10 threes. LeBron's not going to make 10 threes. So he's going to want to pass the ball. And like Greg mentioned, JaVale McGee was 10 of 10 because the Suns didn't have any other size out there. But it basically took the Lakers out of what they really, really wanted to do and let the Suns guards, their wings, actually defend the passing lanes as much, and disrupt that behind Ayton. But as you said, it kept DeAndre Ayton engaged the whole time. And that's really important. When DeAndre Ayton is mentally engaged the whole time with a plan, with knowing exactly what to do, he stays engaged, and he had one of his best games of his career. This entire four wins in 5 nights career 4 wins in 5 games stretch is the best stretch of Ayton's career. And just being engaged the whole time and doing things on both ends of the court that we've wanted to see. This is a natural progression, and yes, we should give Igor Kokoshkov some credit for this because he didn't overburden DeAndre Ayton too early. And he went to a lot of trouble not to overburden Mikal Bridges. Remember in the first month, we were like, why isn't Mikal playing more? Oh, he's just not ready yet. Well, he looks like he's ready, but he's not ready yet. And now Mikal is ready. And has been ready, and he did get his minutes increased every single month, and he's proven it. And I think Igor might be a little slower than we want him to be. He's not a magician. He doesn't know in advance what's going to happen. He doesn't have the tricks already up his sleeve. He's watching. He's a little bit more methodical. But I think we're seeing good fruits of that labor over this stretch, and he's finally got some real players that he can depend on.
Well, and would you rather, I mean, let's be frank, would it have been nice for DeAndre Ayton to just come out and dominate the league in year one? And yeah, of course.
Absolutely. Right.
But would you rather have DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, a lot of these young guys have that slow burn and have a great long career and be great in the coming years? Or burn bright and flame out real quick, because I have a feeling one of these young rookies that have been showing off this year is going to flame out. It just mathematically, one of these guys is not going to be a star, even though he looks really good. I lead towards it's probably Trae Young, but who knows? It could be any of these guys. And I'd much rather have a guy that's brought along the right way, that learns and then hits his stride year 2, year 3, and it builds upon it, than a guy that maybe flames out. So I'm all right with DeAndre coming along this way. And we always knew big men take a little longer to develop than guards. So the progression has been very encouraging to me this week.
DeAndre Ayton is leading the Suns in win shares, 5.5 this year, which is impressive because the Suns hardly have any wins. The highest Bledsoe in 14-15 and Dragic in 13-14. I think Bledsoe had 5.8 and Dragic was around 10 that season. But he is leading the Suns in win shares. Take it for what you will. Alex Len led the Suns in win shares last year. I don't think Devin Booker actually ever has.
No, because win shares is calculated based on the box score stuff, so it's about scoring efficiency and all the box score things. And Devin Booker has always, what's that?
Sorry, Teletovic did 1 year, 15-6. He led the Suns in win shares.
Hey, you do not laugh at Miles Teletovic, all right?
What's his name?
Did I say Miles?
Did.
No, Teletovic, just leave me alone. He had why I got it confused? Him and Miles Plumlee had the best hair I ever saw on a Suns roster while I was there.
Great. Oh, and hey, prayers to Milos. Isn't it Milos?
Yeah, Milos.
Yeah. Prayers to him, because he's out of the league again because of those darn blood clots, and he's not going to be able to play again. I feel so bad for him.
You know who I saw on TV the other day interviewing a player, and I thought he was still playing? Jason Terry. I thought he was still playing, just kind of like the 15th guy on the bench. It's not actually.
Was he interviewing Vince Carter?
No, I think it was Kyle Lowry that he was interviewing. But I was like, man, these players, they go really quick into their broadcasting careers. And so I watched. What was the game? It was the Rockets versus Toronto, and it was a players only broadcast, and it was Grant Hill, Isaiah Thomas, somebody else were the announcers. They got to stop. They got to.
Those things.
I mean, the commentary on it is just awful. They clearly don't even know all the players' names because they can only talk about 3 of the players. It's just, and they'll say like really great defense, a lot of hustle, but they'll do it over and over, and that's their own commentary.
Right. There was one player they really wanted to talk up, and he was just getting worked for like 5-10 straight minutes of court time, and just getting worked and worked and worked. And he finally did one good play, and then the outro going into commercial break was, blah, 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 is taking over the game. He's dominating the game. Look at this play. And he had literally, that was the only good play he had in 10 minutes.
I feel like we had this segment of last podcast where
we did. But I think I used the same example.
I wanted to bring up the specifics of how bad that TNT broadcast was. Great game, but terrible broadcast. More so, I really thought Jason Terry was still playing. Vince Carter is going to be the only player in NBA history to have his career span 4 decades if he plays next year.
He said he's not coming back, but don't you think you would if you had that chance?
He said he might this week. This week he said he might. He's got enough in the tank. He might go one more.
What I thought was funny is Dirk Nowitzki he's just hamming it up this whole year. He just loves it. And in every place, he hasn't announced his retirement, but every place he goes, they have some kind of recognition or standing ovation or cheer. And then just after a game one time in the last week or so, he's like, I might play next year.
Yeah. How great would that be if he's just been trolling everybody? He's like, yeah, I got that nice All-Star game that I got to go to, but I'm coming back next year, baby. Give me one more. What's crazy to me is we thought Vince Carter's career was dead when he was here in Phoenix, and that was
10
almost a
years
decade ago.
Yeah.
Which is still playing. And well, I like it too because it's not like he's ring chasing. It's not like he went and joined the Warriors so that he could play 2 minutes a game. He's on a bad team so he can actually play.
Last year too. Grizzlies the year before that. Kings, Grizzlies, and Hawks are his last 3 teams.
I feel like he
Why
just
isn't
enjoys...
he playing for the Suns? It feels like he should be playing for the Suns.
I mean, they need washed up veterans. That's clearly the MO. Although I will say Tyler Johnson, to your point, Dave, is 26 years old, right in his prime.
Yeah, he's not washed up.
It's amazing to me that that's a veteran. That guy is almost a
It's amazing to
decade
him,
younger
too.
than me. And
It's amazing to him too. I've asked him, and he's like, "I just can't believe I'm one of the oldest guys in this room."
who the hell put this together is basically what he's saying.
Well, my favorite part is when someone's commenting on TV saying, and he's 33 years old and he's still playing at this level. I'm like, man, that ain't that old, guys.
No,
It is
no,
for
but
NBA.
it's NBA. But when we're talking 26 being old on this roster, that's absurd. All right, even in sports, that's absurd.
He is the 3rd oldest guy in the rotation at 26.
I really like the fact that Igor is now playing Troy Daniels.
Yeah, Troy's the 2nd oldest, and he's only 28.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you like that he's playing Troy Daniels because you have an irrational love of Troy Daniels.
You know
I think that he offers value, and and he's playing well, and it's nice that he gets to play. I do have an irrational love for Troy Daniels. I love Troy Daniels.
Thank you.
He has been. I've loved watching him play all year too. More so than in prior years, and maybe I just wasn't watching very closely. I don't know, but he does bust his butt when he's out there, and he's not good at anything but shooting, but he tries at least, and I appreciate that. Man, I loved it that play he had, and I don't know if we talked about this last week already either. I am getting old, but the play he had where he blocked, who was it? Was it Giannis?
Yeah,
in the Bucks game.
He stripped him. You know,
Stripped
he did that
him.
thing that short players
And
do.
he's like, "Oh, dude, I fouled the hell out of him. I wasn't going to let him score." But the ref didn't call it, and he just stood there like dumbfounded that the play was still live, and he had the ball in his hand. He literally stripped him and held the ball, and he's like, "Okay, I'll drive down to the other end." And he juked 3 different defenders on the way to the hoop for a left-handed fall down bank shot for a 3-point play. That was like the most improbable play in the entire season probably for the Suns. And even after the game, Troy's like, "Oh man, I fouled the hell out of him. I meant to foul him."
See, he knew he was playing with house money, so he figured he'd go down and do something crazy on the offensive end, right?
Well, he's like, nobody else is moving. Everyone thought the play was over. He's like, "Okay, I'll take it down," and it was awesome.
Watching him dribble does make me laugh, though. He is not a great dribbler.
No, he's not, which is surprising that he was able to juke out 2 guys in space and then went into a guy at the rim.
Oh, you know what he did? A play that he had this last week was he ran a pick and roll perfectly with the bounce pass to DeAndre Ayton. I was like, no way that just happened.
No, that's too. Well, he did do one of those, but the one I loved was the one to Rashawn Holmes where he drew the defenders toward him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh my God, I have this!" And he just totally reached around the other defender and dribbled and threw the ball to Rashawn for the wide open dunk. That was awesome.
Dave, I think you need to set up an interview for Tim to just have 10 minutes on the show to talk with Troy Daniels. Just a love fest, you know.
Maybe I can get you guys to FaceTime. I'll see if I can FaceTime you.
So a listener hit me up. I had made a tweet the other day about how much more I enjoy watching the Suns with Tyler Johnson and Kelly Oubre. I just think they're a more fun team to watch. And he responded and he said, "Good, because you've been kind of a curmudgeon on the podcast recently." And it's like, yeah, probably. I mean, but we're looking at another shithole season, if you will. It's hard. As much as Dave wants to stay positive, it's hard.
I don't want to say. I just am tired of being negative. There's so much negative, and there's plenty of reason to be negative. I get it, but I'm just tired of talking negative.
This week was fun. We should celebrate it. We don't get a lot of weeks like this. And yeah, sure, there were some negative things that came out, but on the court, this team is being fun, and they found a way to isolate themselves from all that other noise right now. And that's exciting to me when when a group like this, including Igor, finds a way to say, you know what, I don't care about that other stuff. James Jones, Robert Sarver, they all can do whatever they need, but we're the 15 guys that are here, and we're the only ones that can have each other's back. So let's go out there and do something about this. That's what I love, and that's why sports is interesting, because you can have a game where the Suns, the worst team in the league, go out and play the best team in the league in the Bucks, and that they band together and find a way to win, and they play well, where they find a way to hand LeBron James what people are calling the worst loss of his career, because they come together despite all the other crap. And that's why sports is interesting.
I love that the Suns basically effectively ended the Lakers' playoff hopes by beating them. And the entire basketball world was like, it's over. Yeah. And even LeBron is like, oh, I'm on a minutes restriction. It's over. Somebody on Twitter, because Bron said he was going into the playoff push or something like that, like a playoff mode activated, right?
Early.
And then someone on Twitter just took the P off of there. Layoff mode activated.
Yeah, off-season mode activated. Congratulations, LeBron. Enjoy the first off-season you'll have starting in April in a very, very long time. But yeah.
Like, why go out there, get swept by the Warriors the very first round? Like, what does that actually do for him? He does have Space Jam 2 that he has to film this summer, which I'm really excited.
We all could have predicted that he was not going to have playoff success by coming to the West. His greatest feat was staying in the East for his entire career, so he could get into the finals and lose.
I always thought this was a vacation season for LeBron. If one of his goals is to really play with his son in 4 years, then he couldn't have had another year where he put all that additional mileage on his body. So he said, you know what, LA, we're gonna have one season where we suck. We're gonna get a second superstar in year 2. That's when we'll really try this. If we make the playoffs, great, but we're not gonna make a run. It's better for me in the long term, and it's better for business because I can film a movie.
In my mind, as you're saying that, I started thinking about that Miley Cyrus Party in the USA song. That's basically LeBron showing up in LA for a year going, hey, let's have some fun.
Yeah, hey, I got my business stuff.
I've got to tell you that there's never been I'm not aware of the Rich Paul run Clutch Sports Group who have made any moves that weren't in the best interest of the individual player, and they don't care about the team as much as they care about the player. And this is just one more example.
I mean, they don't represent the team; they represent the player.
Oh, I know, but usually it's not this obvious. They have been more obvious about the player than any other agent has been in the NBA in history.
The best thing about it has been a rough 10 years. It's been tough to be a Suns fan. It's been tough missing the playoffs for what'll be 9 straight seasons. But if you look at it, this is the worst run in Lakers history too. They're going to miss the playoffs for the 6th straight season, and I don't think they had missed the playoffs 6 times in their entire existence before that. So at least, at least as bad as this has been, at least it sucked for Lakers fans too.
Well, I'm happy for the Kings that are sniffing the playoffs. They're currently right now out of it in 9th place, but they can still make the playoffs. They're on 15 straight years without the playoffs. It does get worse.
Genie Bus made a comment that the Lakers' biggest enemy is the media and fake news. No. The biggest enemy is the fact that you got LeBron James and you surrounded him with JaVale McGee, Michael Beasley, Lance Stevenson, and Rajon Rondo, a bunch of players who can't shoot, and said, "Here you go."
Oh. Somebody replayed Magic Johnson's summer league interview about how he built the team. Did you guys watch that?
Oh, and the Lakers are back.
He spent 5 minutes talking about how the teams with shooting don't win in the playoffs. The teams who can't shoot are the ones who can win in the playoffs because they play harder defense. He spent 5 minutes going off on that. The Boston Celtics are not great shooters, but they went further in the playoffs than teams with shooters. I'm like, did you not watch the Golden State Warriors at all? It's and LeBron in the East coming in, he had shooters around him. I love Dave Griffin being interviewed last summer as well, former GM of the Cavs. He's like, What was that famous line from Dodgeball? It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for him. That's basically what Dave Griffin said over the summer. We surrounded LeBron with shooters. It's possible it'll work if you surround him with guys who can't shoot. But we'll just have to see how that goes. We never thought so when we went to 3 straight NBA finals.
I mean, if you were to pick the 4 worst players in the NBA to surround LeBron James with and then do it, that's essentially what they did.
No,
Lance Stevenson, Rajon Rondo, JaVale McGee.
There's not. You cannot find one. And then why the hell didn't they keep Brook Lopez? That's the part. Like, do you know how good Brook Lopez would have fit on the Lakers? Not to make this a Lakers podcast, but some shooting from the center position would have been great. Also,
and he can rebound and play defense.
Right.
I love it. Destroy the Lakers. If I have to be miserable, come along, you bandwagon.
We're not going to help the Lakers out with any of this. Yeah, I think they should bring back all those players for next year. That's what I think.
Let's run them back the next 4 years. I'm good with that.
Well, remember how much James Jones helped out the Lakers by giving them Tyson Chandler?
Hey, if you go back and look at actually from when they got Tyson to when LeBron got hurt at Christmas, they actually were spectacular in that time. They were 4th in the West. I think they went 16-8. It was LeBron's injury that did him in, and Tyson Chandler actually helped during that run. So I'm still not going to back off that.
Well, no, he did.
I watched a whole video about it.
Tyson Chandler was effective for like 5 games because he's old to put him playing center, and then he just can't do that anymore. I mean, that's, but anyway, we've gone on too long. The podcast is now a little over an hour. The YouTube show is now over an hour. So I want to say bye to everybody, but it was
welcome to edit out all the Laker love.
Yeah. It was really nice to talk about wins and some positivity.
Yes, it was. Yes, we can go back to talking about crappy stuff when they're crappy again, but during a stretch where they're actually winning games, I've really enjoyed this podcast. Thank you guys for being so into talking about positive things with the Suns. Thank you.
Dave, anything you need to feel better about your old decrepit self will do, all right?
Yeah, okay.
On that note,
I got to go take my teeth out and bleach them. All right.